my sister brought wine to my boyfriend's apartment, put her hand on his knee, and whispered she'd treat him better. He kicked her out in rage. What would you do if your own sister tried to seduce the man you loved, and then turned your entire family against you when you exposed her? For nearly 4 years, I believed I had finally found stability with Henry, my kind and successful partner. But when Lucy, my sister, walked into his apartment one evening and suggested he give it a go with her, I realized this wasn't just sibling rivalry anymore. It was war. My sister accompanied my wealthy lover to his apartment and suggested that he give it a go with her. Consequently, I told our parents about her. Nearly 4 years have passed since I began dating Henry. He's generous, diligent, and has achieved great professional success. He gets a good salary, yet he doesn't flaunt it. Lucy, my sister, has always loved a good competition. She has an innate desire to win at any costs, particularly when it involves stealing from me, and this trait has been with her since we were little girls. Lucy used to whine until my parents gave in and allowed her play with my new toys when we were little. Eventually, it would end up in her possession. She would sneak into my social gatherings and attempt to steal the show, generally by making me look foolish, whenever I had people over. When I was 15 years old, I had my first serious romantic interest. I confided in her. She wore her best clothes to school the following day, had lunch with him, and couldn't help but laugh at his jokes. She boasted to me later on, saying, "He talked to me more than you. Guess he likes me better." I was hoping she'd get over it. Not her. The sight of Henry's automobile brought a smile to Lucy's face the first time I introduced him to my family. Her inquiries regarding his occupation, income, and living situation persisted. On the inside I was apprehensive, but I shrugged it off. Whenever Henry dropped by during the subsequent months, Lucy would patiently wait. Henry would change the subject and giggle nervously when she said things like, "Wow, I wish I could find someone like you." She would also wear low-cut blouses and flip her hair. On occasion she would jokingly inquire, "If you and my sister ever break up, you'll call me, right?" It was difficult for me. Lucy just rolled her eyes when I asked her to be more subdued. "My goodness, you seem really self-conscious. I'm merely trying to be friendly. Things came to a head 3 months ago, and it's not my fault if your partner enjoys our conversations." At Henry's flat, we had a little dinner party. Dressed for a night on the town, Lucy arrived in a figure-hugging dress and high heels, her scent wafting through the room. Throughout the evening, she remained fixated on Henry. She leant in close while he spoke, touched his arm, and muttered something in his ear, all of which clearly unsettled him. Separated from her, I inquired as to her whereabouts. Laughter escaped her lips. So that the evening wouldn't be destroyed, Henry begged me to let it go instead of kicking her out. "Relax. I'm just making conversation. You should be thanking me for keeping your man entertained." Henry spilled the beans a week later, and I felt sick to my stomach. While I was at work, Lucy showed up to his flat without warning. Bringing a bottle of wine, she explained that she was lonely and needed to chat to him. According to Henry, she began to vent about her feelings of isolation while sitting on the couch next to him with her legs crossed. At that point, she placed her hand on his knee and threatened, "If you ever get bored with my sister, you know I'd treat you better." Henry made it quite apparent that he was not interested and ordered her to go. He also informed me without delay. I contacted Lucy later that night and inquired as to whether she had gone insane. There was no denial on her part. "You seem to be taking things too seriously." "I was only kidding," she added with a mischievous grin. Henry could have removed me from the premises if he had desired. She made fun of me when I brought up the fact that Henry had actually removed her. Whatever. Maybe I was just testing him. You should be glad he passed. He was tested. She used that as an excuse. I called her out on her attempt to ruin our relationship, calling her pitiful, self-centered, and repulsive. She fired back. "You're just mad because you know I could take him if I wanted to. You've always been jealous of me. I was done with you." I informed her that our sisterhood was over. Forget about phoning each other or visiting. We won't even pretend to be family anymore. Despite her indifferent laughter, I could sense that my remarks had an impact on her. My folks pleaded with me to let her go after they found out. My mom insisted, "She's your sister. You can't just throw her away over a man." I calmly countered, "This isn't about a man. It's about respect. And she's never respected me." Naturally, Lucy went on to tell everyone in the family that I'm being hyperbolic and attempting to ruin her life for no reason at all. On Facebook, she has been sharing nebulous quotations about inauthentic people and the destructive power of jealousy on relationships. Now we reach the meat of the matter. A friend of Lucy's, someone I don't even know very well, sent me screenshots of Lucy boasting about something in a group chat. In her text, she said things like, "I could have had him if I wanted. She should thank me for not stealing him." My parents received screenshots of this conversation from the same buddy. She couldn't believe Lucy would confess, my mom said me as she sobbed over the phone. She hasn't heard from my dad in weeks. Henry, on the other hand, informed me that he feels incredibly fortunate to be with someone who isn't game. We are more powerful than before. Lucy is unable to proceed with anything. I have been unable to receive her calls from unfamiliar numbers. The truth has finally broken through, and my parents no longer pressure me to make amends. This time, she lost in front of everyone, even though she usually succeeds when she plays her manipulative game. After 2 weeks of hearing nothing from Lucy, I began to wonder if she had finally understood. A call from the building security department interrupted my examination of quarterly reports as I sat at my desk. The guard's voice was tight as he described a stranger in the lobby who claimed to be my sister and wanted to see me. The realization that Lucy had located my office and was actually present sent a shiver down my spine. No matter what, I urged security to keep her down. I then recalled that our building's security software provided access to the lobby cameras for the convenience of our staff. I retrieved it from my phone and beheld her, a vibrantly dressed woman, at the security station, toting what appeared to be a gift bag adorned with tissue paper protruding from the top. As the two soldiers continued to shake their heads in disapproval, she made increasingly frantic gestures at them, her face turning redder by the second. Even though the video didn't capture her voice, I could make out her fast-talking sob story about how she needed to apologize to her sister. Afterwards, I observed her get her phone and begin filming the guards, alternating between them and herself as she continuously moved her lips. Arriving lunchtime workers couldn't help but gawk at the situation, with a few even taking out their phones to film the lobby drama. Both guards maintained an air of professionalism while appearing uneasy. One pointed to the door, while the other remained at the desk, likely phoning for reinforcements. I texted Henry to let him know what was happening, but my hands were trembling so badly that I could hardly type. Without delay, he responded, inquiring as to whether I would like him to exit his office and fetch me. Even though I was shaking from head to toe, I insisted that I needed to deal with this on my own. Having received a call from security regarding the issue downstairs, my manager rushed over at that very moment. Concerned that I looked too pale, she wanted to know if I should go early or if we should contact the authorities. She nodded and took up her desk phone to call security to document everything that was happening for my records. My phone rang 20 minutes after Lucy was eventually led away when a message arrived from an unknown sender. Lucy included a photo of herself sitting in her car, her mascara dripping down her face, and a message in which she claimed I was harsh for making fun of her, but that she really only wanted to buy me a birthday present for my mom. The entire justification became even more absurd when one considered that Mom's birthday was still 4 months away. Later that night, Henry dropped by, and we sat on his couch, debating whether or not his apartment needed security cameras. We were both aware that this was just Lucy trying to gauge my reaction to her behavior and see how far she could push me. She was clearly pushing my boundaries. Lucy had returned home in a state of convulsions after being humiliated at my employment, so Mom called at 9 o'clock that night, unhappy. Mom became silent for a second after I told her that Lucy had turned up unannounced and made a scene. But then she sighed and said that Lucy had been acting incredibly erratic as of late, using that very term. That night as I lay in bed, I stared at the ceiling and thought about all the occasions that Lucy had acted out in our childhood, made up stories to make herself look bad, and then lied about it. My chest tightened at the sight of the design because I recognized it. On the other hand, she felt more desperate and strange this time, as if she were sliding out of control. Arriving at work 3 days later, I saw a bunch of roses on my desk, devoid of any accompanying card. A delivery woman had dropped them off approximately 1 hour before I arrived, according to my coworker Claire. However, the woman she portrayed did not resemble any of the local florists who typically delivered flowers to our office. I requested permission from the building's security to see footage from the lobby's cameras from earlier today, because something didn't add up with those roses. A woman I'd never seen before holding the identical bouquet appeared on the screen as soon as the security guard retrieved the tape. But as we continued to rewind, we noticed that she was first chatting with someone in the parking garage. Lucy was obviously giving the woman what appeared to be a $25 bill as the guard panned in, and my stomach fell at the sight of the woman gesturing toward the entrance of the building. After stealing the money and flowers from Lucy's car, the woman hurried inside as Lucy sped away. I asked the security guard to record it and send it to me via email right away. When I got back to my desk, I saw that the roses were of the expensive variety, with deep red petals and flawless centers. Claire said that they reminded her of the kind that Henry's mom favored, which gave me the creeps because Henry had brought up that precise detail with Lucy at a family meal a few months ago. At Claire's suggestion, I went to Lucy's old account and checked her Instagram to see if she had posted anything recently. She has been posting non-stop over the past few days, with phrases like, "finally knowing my worth," and images of herself with identical roses, as well as shots of herself eating at luxury restaurants. Patience pays off in the end, and the proper person will realize what he's been missing. This doesn't make sense. Lucy brings a present bag to work and says it's for their mom's birthday, even though it's still 4 months away. What a feeble justification. What she had in mind with that security measure is now completely puzzling to me. She uploaded the photo of the roses exactly 1 hour after the delivery lady departed my building, according to the timestamp. Henry informed me via text that his co-worker Brad had sent him an unusual message earlier that day. According to Brad, the barista at the coffee shop in their building that morning was asked about Henry's typical order by a woman who bore an uncanny resemblance to his mother, resemblance to the sibling Henry had mentioned. She informed the barista that she needed to know her sister's boyfriend's precise coffee preferences so she could surprise him with a gift. Even though the barista hadn't divulged any details, Henry should have known since she was someone Brad had remembered from last year's company holiday party. Because Henry's workplace was 25 miles away and she had visited both locations that morning, I read the note with trembling hands. Later that night, Dad gave Mom a weary-sounding call when she was at her book group. According to him, Lucy had been requesting little amounts of money from them recently, stating that she needed it for treatment sessions in order to address her concerns. She became defensive and insisted that they should have faith in her to manage her own mental health when he demanded documentation or the name of the therapist. Over the last month, he had handed her about $2,000. Nevertheless, something seemed wrong since she never appeared to have any appointments on the days she said she had them. After giving it a week, I made up my mind to start taking detailed notes. On my laptop, I made a folder that included each Instagram post, the surveillance footage, Henry's text messages regarding the event at the coffee shop, and Dad's list of money transfers to Lucy. I also included screenshots of each post. After I showed everything to Claire, who works in human resources for a computer company, she became extremely serious very quickly. This, she claimed, was classic stalker behavior, and I should think about getting a restraining order before things got worse. That evening, I began filling out forms that I had downloaded from the courtroom website. After another 3 days, Henry sent me a LinkedIn message purporting to be from a tech-forward solutions recruiter. Using a stock photo of a woman dressed for work, the profile gave off an air of professionalism. However, the letter was strange, describing a fantastic chance that necessitated a quick rendezvous in a downtown coffee shop. The moment I read it, my blood froze because it was exactly what Lucy wrote. Henry had mentioned that the manner seemed similar. Consistent use of punctuation and emphasis on specific words. Even though he thanked them for contacting him, he had already responded professionally by stating that he was not interested in new chances. The phony profile sent another message within 2 hours, this time utterly distraught, claiming he was making the worst decision of his career, would regret it forever, and that opportunities like these only come around once. We were both aware that it was her profile, so Henry banned it and reported it to LinkedIn. Simultaneously, I began to receive texts from people we knew, asking if Henry and I were okay. Lucy had been falsely stating that she and Henry had been in regular contact by exhibiting images of their text messages. I discovered that she had meticulously clipped out the dates from older communications before the incident, and was portraying them as recent when I requested to see these screenshots. The images that Lucy had shown her friend were actually from Henry's birthday supper 2 years earlier, but Lucy had altered them to erase the date stamps, so I knew they weren't from that special occasion. After a few days, I saw her car in the parking lot, as I was supermarket shopping for dinner ingredients. That ding on the back bumper of that eye-catching red Honda. I felt a chill run down my spine, and I gave up on my optimistic cereal aisle cart. I hurried to my car, my heart racing as I pondered whether she was really trailing behind me, or if it was all a coincidence. I took an alternate route home, nervously checked my mirrors the whole way, and didn't calm down until I was safely inside my locked car. After waiting 2 weeks, Mom eventually called to confess the truth about what had been happening at their house. Lucy refused to leave her childhood bedroom, returned to her computer or phone, and spent most of her time there. Several times a day, Lucy would reload Henry's profile page and stare at his professional headshot, which Mom had seen she did obsessively. Additionally, she had printed out listings for flats within a 3-block radius of his building after doing research on his neighborhood. I received a Facebook message from someone whose name I initially didn't know 2 days after my mom informed me about the apartment printouts. After dating for 8 months during college, Marcus Matthews and Lucy had a messy breakup that Lucy refused to discuss. I felt sick to my stomach after hearing his brief message. He wanted to forewarn me since he had read posts from our mutual acquaintances regarding me and Lucy's relationship, and she had done something similar after they broke up. She began calling his company with false complaints about him, showing up at his new girlfriend's workplace, and even creating a phony dating site using his images to message random women nasty things after he rejected her for infidelity. What he said next just served to exacerbate the situation, so I contacted him immediately. During our phone conversation, he accessed his email and forwarded me scanned copies of 2019 police reports, the veracity of which I found unbelievable. Lucy had allegedly keyed Liar into his car when he began seeing someone else, according to the first account. 2 weeks in a row, she would leave him dead flowers on his porch, as described in the second one. The third and most disturbing one detailed her break-in while he was at work, and her subsequent destruction of all of his girlfriend's clothing. Due to Marcus's desire to move on and Lucy's agreement to undergo counseling, the charges were dismissed. However, she never showed up for her scheduled therapy appointments. Claiming that she needed to recuperate from Marcus's abuse, she simply informed everyone that she had done so and returned home. As soon as I hung up the phone with Marcus, I texted my parents the details. My father returned my call so quickly that I hardly had a chance to absorb the new information. As he informed me that he was going to the bank immediately to put a hold on the emergency credit card that had been handed to Lucy, his voice quivered. She had claimed last month that she required money for treatment appointments, and he was going to demand invoices for each one. While Lucy was at what she said was a job interview, my mom texted me to see if we could have coffee first thing in the morning. Mom appeared as though she hadn't slept in days when we met at the coffee shop close to their house. Even before I sat down, she began to cry, and her hands trembled as she held her cup. Apparently she knew Lucy was envious of me ever since we were tiny girls, but she held out hope that Lucy would eventually get over it. She said that she had noticed the warning flags, such as Lucy's tendency to mimic my actions while attempting to outdo me. Whenever I achieved a goal, she would become enraged. The constant attempts she made to abscond with my friends or possessions. According to Mom, after Lucy ruined my prom dress the night before the dance, her parents attempted to bring her to therapy when she was 16 years old. However, Lucy yelled and threatened to injure herself if they forced her to go. Their mother stated it was the worst decision they ever made because they quit up due to fear. While I was preparing dinner that night, Henry called, and his voice seemed strange. An incident in the parking garage had just been reported to him by the building's security. Someone attempted to get entrance to the resident area using an old key fob that was reported lost 6 months ago. As soon as security approached, the individual bolted for their vehicle, but the footage caught every move. A fantastic fit for Lucy's vehicle was the license plate. A woman wearing sunglasses and a baseball cap was shown in the film that was pulled by security. The gait she took and the posture she assumed made it plainly her. After waiting 3 days, Henry and I finally made it to the station to report the incident that had occurred in the parking garage. At first, the desk officer appeared uninterested, as if this were just another family argument that he preferred not to handle. However, I retrieved the folder that contained all the documentation, the old police reports from Marcus, the screenshots from Julia, the security footage from Henry's building, and printed copies of all the threatening texts from unknown numbers. The documents were organized chronologically with the dates and times highlighted. As he turned the pages, the officer's expression transformed entirely. He summoned his boss, who double-checked everything, and requested that we be patient while they created duplicates. We were provided with a case number, and informed that a detective will contact us within the next week. In order to manage all the stress, I chose to seek expert assistance. My doctor suggested a therapist, so I scheduled an appointment with her. As I recounted the events of that first appointment to the therapist, her eyes widened in understanding. She informed me that Lucy's actions were following a worrying trend, and that we should make preparations for potential dangers. We devoted the remaining portion of the hour to discussing potential outcomes in the event that Lucy may visit my place of employment, Henry's apartment, my apartment, or make an unsolicited approach to me in public. She instantly provided a list of security procedures that I needed to implement, and instructed me to document everything, no matter how small. Julia texted me multiple times while I was in treatment, claiming I was experiencing a mental breakdown and that Henry was concerned about my stability. She forwarded me screenshots of communications that Lucy had been sending to their entire friend group. Lucy expressed her fears that I may harm myself or others, and she informed them that I was neurotic and made up things about her. A few of my friends were considering purchasing it and were consulting Julia about whether they ought to contact me or have someone check on my welfare. As quickly as a disastrous first date can lead to blocked numbers, Lucy is going from roses to restraining orders. Someone had a fever dream about corporate speak while trying to replicate LinkedIn's style guide. Her faux recruiter act reads like that. Even when Julia informed them that everything was a fabrication, Lucy persisted in promoting her story and even started a group chat for Emma's support during her dilemma, in which she acted as the worried sister. Reading such messages prompted me to start making changes to my routine right away. Every day, I take a different route to work and, instead of going to the gym at 6 a.m., I go at various times. Compartment, varying the times and locations of my lunch breaks, and refraining from sharing my whereabouts on social media. It was tiring to be on high alert all the time. I had to check my mirrors as I drove, scan every room I entered, and jump whenever someone got too close to me. My sister played the villain in what seemed like an espionage movie. After working for almost a week, Henry returned home to see something gleaming on the floor of the hallway outside his apartment. Something nobody of us noticed was the silver earring he picked up, which had a tiny pearl. To check if anyone had reported it missing, he brought it down to security. Things were strange once more at that point. After reviewing the surveillance tape from earlier in the day, the security guard confirmed that an individual like Lucy was seen conversing with a maintenance worker near the service elevator. This time, instead of her usual baseball cap, she sported a medical mask, as if she were suffering from allergies or something. She spoke to the maintenance guy, and he shook his head in confusion. She swiftly departed after giving him anything. A woman approached the maintenance worker and claimed to be Henry's sister, who had locked herself out while visiting. Security summoned him down, and he explained the situation. She insisted on waiting for Henry in his apartment, but he informed her that doing so was against company policy and that she should instead use the lobby. Anger and a $25 note were her weapons as she swung her tantrum and walked off. The entire encounter was awkward for him, so he tossed the money aside. On his computer, the building manager retrieved the maintenance logs for that week and began to scroll through them. He paused at a Tuesday entry that revealed someone had reported a water leak in Henry's unit and submitted a work order. Tenant contacted back to confirm it was a false alarm, and the order was then cancelled 25 minutes later. The number that called did not correspond to any tenant in the building, according to the manager's review of the phone records. He presented us with the printed logs, stating that we should report this activity since it was highly suspicious. My phone started beeping non-stop with Instagram notifications at 3 a.m., a week later. Lucy had managed to unblock herself and was sharing old family images from our childhood. I shook my hands trembling as I grabbed screenshots of every photo and description, which said things like, "Missing better times," "Before everything changed," and "Family is forever." Eventually I blocked her new account. Upon viewing the posts the following morning, Claire contacted me and extended an invitation to spend a couple evenings a week at her apartment. She advised me to be unpredictable and change things up if Lucy was observing my tendencies. I began spending Tuesdays and Thursdays at Claire's place while she worked night shifts, so I packed a suitcase and started living there. After 3 days of searching their Amazon account for a refund, my dad called me, sounding perplexed. He discovered that Lucy had made unannounced purchases of books using their stored credit card. Winning back trust after betrayal, manipulation tactics in relationships, and strangely, corporate espionage for beginners were some of the titles that made him sick to his stomach. The harm had already been done when he canceled the orders and terminated her account access. The big public demo day, when Henry's company showcased their new software to prospective investors, was 2 weeks away. As I sat in the audience, engrossed on Henry's presentation, I noticed an old acquaintance arriving a little late, dressed in a sharp suit. During the Q&A, Lucy pretended to be an investor and asked technical questions, having somehow learned about the event. She quickly began to express her remorse to Henry, after cornering him near the coffee stand during the break. Seeing that Henry appeared uneasy, Henry's chief executive officer went over to see if he was all right. As Henry identified Lucy as someone who must depart, security personnel escorted her while she continued to assert her status as an authorized participant. We took the screenshots and maintenance logs with us to the police station the following morning. Following a thorough review, the investigating detective concluded that there was sufficient proof of escalation to warrant the enforcement of a no-contact order. He assured us that the approval procedure would be lengthy, a few weeks, but that our current materials should be sufficient. Later that night, my mom sent me a text message informing me that Lucy had been so upset by the police involvement that she threw her laptop against the wall. Lucy insisted they purchase a replacement screen so she could continue her job hunt despite the screen's total destruction. Lucy was advised by Mom that Dad would not agree and that she needed to be responsible for herself. I showed the building administration a picture of Lucy and set up a doorbell camera 2 weeks later. They shared her photo with the whole security team and put her on their "Do Not Admit" list. Henry's employer was already very serious before the incident on demo day. All guests were required to get prior approval at least 24 hours in advance as part of the new security standard. Everyone on staff was informed of the incident, and Lucy's picture was added to their security system. I was beginning to believe things would settle down, when suddenly Marcus contacted me in a state of panic. After Lucy discovered his fiancée on Instagram, she proceeded to send her images of their former personal college communications. She made it up when she informed his fiancée that Marcus had been messaging her lately about wanting to meet up. After hours of trying to reassure his betrayed fiancée, Marcus finally succeeded in showing her that he had blocked Lucy years ago and that she was lying. The following day, Marcus's fiancée contacted me to express her desire to assist us in obtaining a no-contact order. A co-worker had been sending her anonymous messages about Marcus's infidelity, and she brought them over with printed emails that proved it. The communications appeared to have originated from many email accounts, however they consistently employed Lucy's peculiar expressions. With a slight tremor in her palm, she passed the stack of documents to me. Marcus's fiancée also presented screenshots displaying the dates and times from her workplace computer. As I patiently read each communication, Henry went through everything and began compiling a file. Then it hit me like a ton of bricks. Lucy was more interested in what I had than before. So that no one could ever own it, she wanted to destroy it all. My stomach turned at the prospect, and I got up and paced the flat in an effort to calm down. A weekend getaway to Portland was a pleasant surprise from Henry 5 days later. With the exception of emergencies, we solely informed Claire of our whereabouts and silenced our phones. We dined at food trucks and strolled the city for 2 days without mentioning Lucy once. It was great to just be ourselves without anybody watching. Upon our return on Sunday night, we discovered numerous scratches surrounding the lock on my apartment door. The metal appeared to have been picked with the incorrect instruments, as it was all scratched up. Although nothing was amiss within, my doorbell camera mysteriously ceased functioning at that very moment. The external surveillance tape was retrieved by the building management, and Lucy was plainly visible. At 2 a.m, she splattered black paint on the lens of my doorbell camera. Prior to attempting to pick my lock for 25 minutes, she stormed out of the room, kicking the door in her annoyance, as seen on camera. On Monday morning, we immediately brought the footage to the courtroom. A temporary restraining order was immediately granted after the judge watched the film twice. After scheduling a full hearing for 2 weeks from now, she had the document forwarded to Lucy that very afternoon. That night, my dad called me sobbing. Lucy had accused me of stalking her when the sheriff had served her with the papers. According to her, I had been harassing her by creating false social media identities and following her. No one could tell me what to believe, so I had to explain everything to my dad. Bringing a laptop and a box of old photos, I made my way to my parents' house. There was a 3-hour session at the kitchen table where I showed them the date stamps on all of the items. While Lucy boasted about her attempts to take Henry in old postings, I found images of myself from the same period that showed a very different side of my personality. After gaining a thorough understanding, Dad buried his head in his hands. A week after that, I got a Facebook friend request from an unknown sender along with a message. The profile was obviously not real, but the message made it seem like Lucy was genuinely suffering and needed to talk. It made me feel bad about my heart. As soon as I saw it, I took a screenshot, and Henry contacted our attorney to discuss the obvious breach of the restraining order. After 3 days, I saw a rental car, this one silver, parked across from my building of employment. From the time I arrived until the time I departed, it remained in the same spot every day. Upon inspection, security discovered rental documents bearing Lucy's name on the dashboard, in addition to receipts from a coffee shop located close to my workplace. Our attorney advised us to take pictures of the scene and record the details of each infraction in order to secure a permanent restraining order. That same afternoon, I photographed the vehicle, rental documents and receipts and sent them all to our attorney via email. My building's security guard began recording the arrival and departure times of the vehicle. Henry was up all night that night worrying about who might be breaking into the house and why he kept checking the locks. After much prodding, he confessed that he had been dreaming that Lucy was breaking into our house while we were sleeping. For our own peace of mind, we booked a hotel room the night prior to the court hearing. The following day, Claire contacted me via phone to inform me that she and several of our friends intended to attend the hearing in the capacity of witnesses. Using her parents' Amazon account, Lucy is purchasing corporate espionage for beginners. For someone who is purportedly experiencing a breakdown, that seems unusually particular. It makes me question if she's following a script instead than behaving irrationally. They wanted to be there for us because they had all witnessed Lucy's insane behavior at some point. I was taken aback by the number of people who had noticed what was happening. I began to cry when she informed me. 3 weeks later, the hearing was scheduled, and my nervousness intensified as the date drew nearer. Lucy had threatened to cut off all communication with Mom if she came to support me, but the night before, Mom called to tell me she was coming anyway. The idea of openly taking a side was too much for Dad, so he remained at home. Our lawyer had brought a heavy folder of evidence to the courthouse the night before the hearing, so we arrived early on the morning of the hearing. Lucy, who was attempting to appear innocent, arrived with her own lawyer while dressed in a conservative style that I had never seen before. Things were looking great for us when the hearing began until Lucy's attorney presented what appeared to be printed text messages from Henry, claiming that he was interested in her. Even though my stomach churned, our lawyer wasted no time in requesting to see the images and quickly established that they were heavily edited. Metadata indicated they were made during the past 2 days, and the font didn't even correspond to actual iPhone messages. A visibly irate judge questioned Lucy's attorney about his knowledge of the messages' falsity. Because he had only gotten them that morning from his customer, he insisted he couldn't verify their accuracy. The judge devoted an additional hour to going over all of our proof, which included the surveillance footage from the rental car, the online postings, and the testimony of our witnesses. He issued a restraining order prohibiting any form of communication, including electronic or otherwise, for a period of 2 years. After Lucy leaped to her feet and yelled loudly, "We ruined her life!" Her attorney seized her arm and escorted her from the courtroom. Mom wanted to have a serious conversation with us after the hearing, so she invited us over to her house. She appeared weary when we arrived, and she informed us that she and Dad had given Lucy 30 days to locate a new place to live. The level of drama in the family home had reached an unsafe point, and Mom was unable to cope with the stress. After returning to Henry's apartment that night, he became silent and revealed that we were capable of overcoming any obstacle as a team. He formally asked whether I would like to live with him. He wanted to be by my side first thing in the morning, not because we were afraid. I agreed without hesitation, and the next week we began searching for a new location, preferably in a distant area where Lucy wouldn't be able to find us. In our search for a place to call home, we logged countless hours onto apartment search engines and explored neighborhoods on opposite sides of town. In the midst of my relief, Julia forwarded me fresh Instagram screenshots in which Lucy claimed our relationship was polyamorous and framed me as the envious one who couldn't bear to share. A deluge of messages from people we knew, all inquiring about the veracity of the posts, began flooding my phone. For the following 3 hours, I typed out the identical explanation to my bewildered friends and coworkers. Claire contacted me from the office to inquire about Lucy's post about my being in an unusual dating arrangement. 2 of Henry's coworkers wanted to know if he was okay at home, so they texted him screenshots. Even though she suspected something was wrong with Lucy, my former college buddy told me this was too far. Reliving the entire ordeal made my hands tremble with each new message. After a while, Henry removed my phone and instructed me to let him deal with the responses while I attempted to collect myself. The following morning, our attorney contacted to inform Lucy that a legal letter to stop and desist regarding the defamatory posts was being sent by her. Additional legal action for harassment and defamation will be pursued if she did not remove everything within 48 hours. On that same afternoon, certified mail was used to send the letter to her last known address, as well as her place of employment. Someone touched me on the shoulder as I was buying milk 3 days later at the supermarket. I hardly recalled her, but it was Hannah, a high school buddy of Lucy's. Despite her unease, she insisted on telling me something about Lucy. While we waited at the dairy department, she went into detail about how Lucy had done the same thing to her college roommate back in the day. After spreading rumors about them having threesomes, Lucy managed to get her roommate's boyfriend to break up with her, humiliated by the claims. Hannah claimed she never stopped wondering if there was more going on, even though everyone else just saw it as a girl or sister issue. In case I wanted confirmation that this was typical behavior from Lucy, she provided me with her contact information. We spent another 2 weeks looking for the perfect apartment and making security plans before we finally found one. With key fob admission at each door and security guards on duty around the clock, the building featured all the amenities we required. That afternoon, we began packing as soon as we signed the lease. The following day, Mom cried on the phone because she had an epiphany while assisting Lucy with her online apartment search. When applying for housing, Lucy had been concealing the restraining order by using her mother's maiden name. Mom was surprised by how much the deceit upset her. She insisted that she had not raised Lucy to be dishonest. Tech Vision Solutions emailed Henry a week later with a fantastic job offer, 2 times Henry's present salary, and all the details about the opportunity. Upon sensing something amiss, he sent it on to his IT buddy, who proceeded to trace the email headers. A coffee shop located 2 streets away from Lucy's friend's apartment provided the IP address. We included it in our ever-expanding record of restraining order violations, and our attorney assured us that we now had sufficient evidence to pursue criminal harassment charges. She suggested keeping detailed records, but that Lucy should wait to see if the letter of cease and desist had any effect before acting. Unexpectedly, that week's treatment session became a turning point in my progress. My therapist wanted me to recall particular memories as I was describing how much I missed playing with my younger sister. No matter how hard I looked, Lucy always managed to contaminate them with her attempts to steal my friends, toys, or attention. It then hit me. All this time I had been grieving for a sister who was never really here. My longing for a different Lucy was an attempt to escape the truth about her. After 3 weeks of packing, we finally loaded up the moving truck and made the crosstown trek to our new digs. Before granting us access to the parking garage, the security guard verified our identities by checking our IDs and key fobs. We spent the day arranging our new home security system and relocking the doors after we moved in. I slept for 8 hours straight that night without waking up in a panic, which had not happened to me in months. The following morning my dad sent me a text message informing me that Lucy had moved in with a man she had met online, a man she had known for precisely 1 week. She was making such careless choices, and he was troubled about it, but he knew he couldn't stop her. Now that her family has pulled back, he claimed, she seems to be in an urgent need of a caregiver. After 3 days, Claire finally called me at work, and her voice was so trembling that I could hardly make out what she was saying. Someone had contacted her employer's human resources department, saying they were checking my history for a government position. Strange queries on my mental health, and a history of false accusations against family members were among the many that they probed. The caller wanted to know if Claire had ever witnessed me being emotionally unstable or violent, so her boss summoned her to a meeting to answer their questions. The HR manager became concerned when the caller began asking very intimate questions about my relationships and couldn't produce any formal documents. A prepaid phone purchased with cash at a gas station 25 miles outside of Seattle was the one that was ultimately linked to the call. The caller was familiar with details such as my college and my first job upon graduation. The Human Resources Department at Claire's company reported the incident to the authorities because it is a federal crime to impersonate a government official. Adding this to our ever-expanding harassment file against Lucy, I made a beeline for the police station. She could be facing real jail time, according to the investigator who reviewed everything, including the restraining order infractions and this new item. That afternoon, he assisted us in formally charging someone with harassment. That evening, my mom broke down and called me sobbing. Lucy had stormed up to their house, yelling that she needed money to hire an attorney. She insisted we were out to ruin her life by spreading false information, and that she was innocent of any wrongdoing. Lucy escaped before the authorities could arrive, forcing Dad to physically barricade the door while Mom dialed 911. I received a call from the prosecutor's office 3 weeks later, informing me of case developments. If Lucy admitted to the harassment, they would accept her plea deal and give her 6 months of probation with therapy as a condition. She faced a possible 18-month prison sentence if she declined and went to trial. A woman approaching me at Pike Place Market the following Saturday had Lucy's identical hairdo. As my pulse raced, I dove behind a flower stand, my body numb with fear. I shook uncontrollably for an hour, even though it was only some random woman purchasing vegetables. I was so distraught over being afraid of my own shadow that Henry came running over to comfort me as I sat on a bench trying to collect myself. 2 days subsequently, the prosecutor contacted to inform Lucy that she had declined the plea bargain and was now seeking a trial. She insisted we were all plotting against her and that she was innocent. We were cautioned by the judge that any contact with us would lead to instant arrest, and the trial date was set for 3 months in the future. Marcus, via his attorney, made contact, stating that he would be willing to testify regarding Lucy's history of harassment and aggressive behavior. His fiancée has also consented to testify regarding Lucy's recent communications with them, including texts and phone calls. They had recorded everything, even the voicemails in which Lucy threatened to call off their wedding unless Derek helped her. It would be like presenting crayon-written evidence to court, the phony texts with the incorrect font. That was such a clumsy effort that even Judge Judy would have found it funny. In an effort to alleviate the emotional and mental strain this situation was putting on Henry and me, we enrolled in couples therapy. With the therapist's support, we were able to overcome our crippling worry that Lucy may reappear at any moment. We practiced skills for controlling trauma responses and re-establishing a feeling of safety through these exercises. I was informed by Mom that Lucy's new roommate had ejected her 2 weeks into treatment. She was discovered by him as she rummaged through his desk, attempting to get his financial records and credit card details. She started claiming to be a victim of circumstances on social media and began sleeping on people's sofas. For the first time in weeks, I returned to work full-time the following Monday. In addition to staffing the main entrance with additional security guards who now verify identities, the corporation has upgraded key card readers on each floor. While I was working, Claire brought me coffee and demonstrated the panic button that had been placed beneath my desk. Coming back was strange, but it was nice to get back into a pattern. Henry contacted me 3 days subsequently via his office, his voice betraying his confusion. While he was in the middle of a discussion, someone dropped an unreturned envelope on his desk. There was a prepared letter inside that warned him to get the hell out of here, because I was exactly like my sister. Just like Lucy annihilated everyone in her path, the letter warned that I will reveal my true colors and ruin his life at some point. Henry promptly took it to our attorney, who subsequently forwarded it to the appropriate authorities for fingerprint examination. Despite its typography, the forensics team was able to match Lucy's partial prints from her prior arrests to the paper. Not only that, but they found a watermark on the paper from a brand that was exclusive to 3 stores in Seattle. 2 days prior to the letter's arrival, Lucy was caught on camera purchasing that particular paper, according to security footage from one retailer. It was further proof supporting the harassment allegations, which our lawyer had been amassing. The following week, we had another meeting with him, and he informed us that Lucy's public defender was vigorously advocating for a mental health evaluation. Their argument was that she required treatment rather than incarceration because she lacked the mental capacity to stand trial. This was a typical defense strategy, the prosecutor told us. It rarely succeeded but could put things off for months. 2 hours after that, at the crack of dawn, I was back at my kitchen table, putting pen to paper for a letter I would never send. I detailed my childhood fantasy of having a sister and how that fantasy was always just that, a fantasy. Over and over again, I detailed the birthday celebrations she destroyed, the friendships she pilfered, and the trust she broke. My grief over the relationship we may have had if she could have loved rather than taken was detailed in my writing. Every time I remembered all that she had done to Henry and me, a fire would ignite in my chest, and I would write about it. Even though I knew I wouldn't mail it, I needed to get the words out, so I folded it and stashed it away. The results of the court-ordered mental examination arrived 2 weeks later. An antisocial form of narcissistic personality disorder was Lucy's official diagnosis, according to the psychiatrist. She was characterized in the study as having no genuine compassion for others and seeing them merely as tools to be used for her personal gain. This had probably been going on in her life since she was a kid, but the enabling of her parents had shielded her from consequences until now. According to the assessment, she was morally aware but unconcerned about the harm she inflicted on others. Therefore, the insanity defense was unsuccessful, and she could stand trial because of her mental competency. Mother contacted me in tears after reading the report, expressing her disbelief at having failed to see the warning signals for such a long time. Although he spoke more quietly, I could detect the remorse in his voice as he admitted that they should have sought assistance for her many years ago. They began attending treatment sessions jointly the next week in an effort to confront their joint responsibility for Lucy's transformation into a monster. Lucy learned that she could do anything without actual consequences from her parents' habit of giving her second opportunities and endless justifications, which the therapist helped them comprehend. We did not receive our trial date until 3 months following the filing of the criminal charges. Henry had to assist me in getting ready that morning as my hands were trembling so badly from stress. I felt like throwing up. Entering the courts had a surreal quality. It was as if I were observing the daily lives of someone else on television. Then, after all these days at the flat, I finally laid eyes on her. Lucy, dressed in a simple gray suit, appeared smaller than I recalled when she sat at the defendant's table. She had lost weight, and her hair was pushed back, giving her a hollow, pointed face. I was expecting to feel terrified when our gazes locked across the courtroom, but all I felt was emptiness. Putting on my sister's face made her appear like an alien. On day 2 of the trial, the prosecutor summoned me to testify. I was able to prove the harassment that had gone on for years with 3 binders full of screenshots, emails, and texts. I presented the jury with her Facebook posts confessing to attempting to abduct Henry and her threatening texts delivered after we severed communication. I detailed the phone calls to my office, the letter she had sent to Henry's office, and the false dating profiles. Lucy stood across the room from me the entire time I was speaking, her icy anger evident in her eyes, as if she were about to strangle me. Despite her lawyer's best efforts, the facts proved that I was not exaggerating my reaction to typical sibling rivalry. Henry was composed and knew exactly what had transpired when he took the stand the following day. He gave testimony regarding Lucy's attempt at seduction when she showed up unannounced at his residence. He went into detail about the break-in attempts and the phony employment offers sent to businesses across in his name. Records from the bank showed that shortly after Lucy's release on bond, someone had attempted to open credit cards using his Social Security information. His impersonal, fact-based testimony was fatal to her defense since he could back up his claims with evidence. The courtroom fell silent as Marcus took the stand. 5 years previously, Lucy had done the same thing with his brother, and he had the invoices to prove it. Claiming to need assistance with her automobile, she had come up at his brother's workplace. Her next move was to begin messaging and sending him images, claiming she could take better care of him than Marcus could. Marcus possessed several electronic communications, including texts, emails, and a recording in which Lucy confessed to enjoying stealing from others. As the prosecutor played the tape, Lucy's laughter about how simple it was to disrupt people's relationships could be heard. Additional evidence was presented by my counsel that Lucy had created phony social media profiles in order to communicate with Henry's co-workers. Her story was that he was unmarried and interested in dating someone from his workplace. According to 3 separate women's testimony, they had all received messages from accounts utilizing photographs of Henry, but with different identities. The gallery began whispering, prompting the court to issue 2 orders for silence. After Lucy's attorney argued that the evidence was entirely circumstantial, the prosecutor revealed the most devastating piece of information. At 3 a.m, Lucy tried many keys to Henry's door, as shown on security footage from Henry's building. 2 days subsequent to the issuance of the restraining order is the timestamp. At last, Lucy got up on stage to try to portray the whole incident as an innocent misunderstanding. She said I was fabricating everything, and that I had always been envious of her. Prosecutors presented her with screenshots in which she boasted to her friends about her attempt to steal Henry, and she fell mute. Message after message detailing her plans was shown. She was going to put Henry through his paces until he realized I was his mistaken sister, according to one message. Yet another claimed to have already decided on the location of their nuptials. Her explanation of Henry's credit card applications was requested by the prosecutor. She fumbled through a statement about how prevalent identity theft is nowadays. Next, they uncovered articles in her laptop's search history that discussed creating accounts under a false identity. Deliberation by the jury was a mere 40 minutes. On charges of criminal harassment, stalking, identity theft, and restraining order violation, they returned guilty verdicts. Upon hearing the judge's decision, Lucy shook uncontrollably. A residential mental health facility for 6 months, 18 months of probation, and mandatory psychiatric therapy were her punishments. On top of that, the judge protected Henry, myself, and our families with a permanent restraining order. For the security systems we had built and the legal bills, she was ordered to pay $25,000 in reparation. The judge ruled that Lucy had a concerning pattern of escalation, despite her lawyer's efforts to secure a reduced sentence. My mom snatched me off the street outside the courthouse and embraced me tightly. In a low voice, Mom told me that she was pleased with my courage in defending Henry and myself. Standing beside us, Dad's eyes welled up with tears. Henry and I went to our go-to Thai joint for supper a week after that. Nothing about winning or losing was brought up. What was discussed instead was progress toward our shared goals and the future. When the owner found out we were going through a bad time, he surprised us with complimentary dessert. Lucy checked into the rehab facility that the court had ordered 3 days later, according to a text message from my dad. A halfway home for those struggling with OCD and other related conditions was her current residence. She was initially scheduled for a 6-month program, with the possibility of extensions pending improvement. That night, I removed all but one photo of Lucy from my phone. When we were 6 and 9 years old, we used to go to the beach and construct sand castles before it became a competition. I held on to it because I want to recall the days when she was simply my sister. 2 weeks after we moved into our new apartment, Claire hosted a housewarming celebration. Our previous building lacked adequate security, so we relocated across town to one that had doormen who checked IDs. Those friends who had been there for us through the ordeal were the only ones she invited. No one once brought up Lucy's name the whole night, even though everyone brought food. I don't understand why Lucy's attorney didn't challenge that handy security film from 3 a.m. The buildings seemed to magically provide ideal camera angles at the exact moment they were needed. That mental examination is also quite textbook-like. It meets all the criteria for a diagnosis. Lucy was completely silent for 6 months. Through my lawyer, Lucy's therapist wrote a letter stating that Lucy wants to communicate. Apologizing or admitting guilt wasn't it. She acknowledged the need for assistance and expressed her efforts to comprehend her actions in her writing. A single reading was enough for me to tuck it away in the past folder. Some relationships are best left in the past, and some bridges should remain burned. That night, Henry saw me gazing out at the Seattle skyline from our new apartment's window. As we stood there, holding hands, he showed me how the ferries crossed the sea. We were both aware that we had survived something that would have killed us, so there was no need for words. Even though the restraining order would remain in effect indefinitely, the terror was beginning to subside. We were given fresh locks, new habits, and the opportunity to construct anything without being watched. I was no longer involved in Lucy's path, even though she was receiving assistance. After 3 years of guarding Henry's and my creation, we could finally enjoy it. In the end, I learned something painful, but necessary. Family is not just about blood, it is about respect, trust, and care. Sometimes the people who share your last name can wound you the deepest, and the people who choose to stand beside you, partners, friends, even colleagues, become your true family. I may never have the sister I once wished for, but I now know that real family is built on love that protects, not envy that destroys.